I'm not a racist, read the teacher. You still they never had this. Number one, never wanna run about the gun. I wasn't licensed to have one. The minute they see me, fear me. I'm the epitome, a public enemy. Use, abuse, without screws. I refuse to blow fuse. They even had it on the news. Don't believe the hype. Don't believe the hype. Don't believe the hype. Back when I wrote y'all, yes.
Let me just play this clip from comedian, lawyer. Her name is Elizabeth Booker Houston, since somebody brought up J.D. Vance. And it's important because he was very eloquent. He was very mindful, very demure last night. Very, very slick with his lies. It was beautiful to watch, actually, because I said strategy-wise, he made it okay for those who are like, I can't stand Trump and he's horrible, to say, well, at least he's human. He brought up his children. He felt bad when Tim Walz talked about his son having witnessed a shooting, and he seemed like he was a human being. But he's a human being that has done nothing, and he's great with the speeches, but he hasn't run a damn thing. Well, Elizabeth Booker Houston, she's an attorney, but she does so with humor. She said this about J.D. Vance.
Well, the VP debate is over, and I'm going to go to sleep. But before I do, I just have a question. Can anybody name one accomplishment that J.D. Vance listed for himself as the Senator of Ohio, as a public servant? Can you name one? One piece of legislation he said that he got enacted, one policy, something he did for the people who he is supposed to serve. Because I didn't hear not one. Meanwhile, Tim Walz talked about how, as governor of Minnesota, he has made sure that they've restored Roe versus Wade, that women can make choices about their own bodies, and that it's not about just being pro-abortion. Minnesota and his policies are pro-family, because Minnesota is ranked as the third best state in the country to raise a family. Ohio is 30th, by the way. You can look it up. He talked about paid family leave in the state. He talked about how they have a home buying assistance program in Minnesota that has helped reduce inflation in Minneapolis, that has helped people realize their dream of buying a home, just a middle-class American dream. He listed so many accomplishments that he has had as a public servant, and J.D. Vance had not one. And I just want y'all to consider that.
LJ Williams, why aren't more people considering when I hear people say, oh, I don't know what her policies are? I get really annoyed. Like, his whole website. More importantly, she's running with a governor. They're in alignment. She's not Biden light. She has her own vision. As a woman growing up, as a Black woman in America, growing up middle class with a single mom, she has certain things that she wants to get done and see done under her administration. And I'm very clear about that. And she's very clear about it. And it was nice to hear Tim Walz rapid fire rattle off the things that they were going to do when elected. And J.D. Vance, all he could talk about was the border, illegals, and, Kamala being a disaster. There was nothing tangible about what he was able to do. Has he even done a bill while he was, has he signed off, sponsored anything? And I like that she said public servants, because I've been saying our relationship with these politicians has been all wrong. They work for us. They're there to serve us, which means we can demand things, or we must demand things in order to get the things that we want to get done. They're not there kings and queens. They work for us, which means on the day after election day, whoever's elected, we start to get busy. We roll up our sleeves, and I hope it's Kamala Harris, because I feel like we can get some stuff done and make her do them.
Yeah.
Lots of prayers.
Well, it's part of the reason why, I list out, like, what is this candidate's track record of success, or at least advocacy? What have they done? What have they said? And what have they said? And how have they showed up, like, in the positions of power in which they had? And to your question about policy, I have resigned to the fact that people don't know what policy is. They don't know what it is. So them saying, what are policies? And then you point it to them and then are like, this is not a policy. This is just, a statement of what she believes on the issue and how she wants it to be done. And I was like, that's because the president doesn't like, because the Congress has to introduce the law, what the president is doing is giving the guidelines and setting their vision for how they want to increase middle class housing or home ownership. And then what happens is then that Congress is supposed to introduce legislation that meets what the president has laid out. And therefore, the president saying, I'm going to sign something that addresses the middle class, that addresses this issue, that provides support or whatever. So if you send me that bill that speaks to these guidelines, that speaks to this, whatever, then I'll sign it and we can implement it. That is her role. She's not supposed to lay out specific. She's not supposed to write draft the whole thing and do whatever. No, because there is a balance. There is that balance of government. Stop trying to invest in a king. That's not what we want. We want this balance of government. She has set a guideline and a vision and saying, I want to invest. I want the tax policy to be supportive of small and mid-sized businesses. So recommend policies and legislation that speaks to this vision. Then Congress says, here are bills that speak to that. We're going to do the 50,000, tax deduction you want to do for new businesses. Here's a bill that does that. Here's also the appropriations from the budget that we control as Congress that is going to invest in that. And then her appointment to the Small Business Administration, her appointment, to the cabinets that all feed into that, say, this is how we're going to implement it. That is how all of that works. She does not do the work alone. She doesn't do it by herself. She sets the vision and everybody else executes and plays their part. So a policy is not the instruction manual. It is these are the guidelines. This is who I want to focus on. This is what I want to do. And then everybody plays their part in implementation. There's parts of her housing plan that I'm like, okay, I like this idea. I like the broad vision. I like the goal. We need to make sure in the execution, when it gets to the agency level, that the guidelines, that it's in the bill, that the guidelines and everything actually address the people that need it the most, and that people aren't taking advantage of it and then continue, buying their second and third and fourth homes, right? So we need to invest in that way. That is that balance of government and understanding, what the reality is and how government works in that sense. Stop wanting a king.
My days are cooler, nights are warmer, and I put the blame on you. Time moves slow, but my heart beats faster. When these eyes are looking right at you, you give me something to believe in, just what I needed. You're the closest.